Hello, everybody. Welcome to America Unhinged. I'm Francesca Fiorentini.
And I'm Wajahat, and this is a show that tracks the first 100 days of Trump's second administration. And Francesca, believe it or not, we're in day 30 of this ongoing constitutional crisis. Don't you feel great again as the price of eggs are up, the price of gasoline is up, the price of groceries are up, measles are up, TB is up, and American planes are going
down. Yes. Not to make light of that, it's very, very scary, but we've got to find some levity somewhere. It's been a month. How many years off of our lives? Definitely more than a month. I mean, just in terms of us being able to get healthcare and not again die in a plane crash. But again, today we have none other than Mehdi Hasan on the show to talk to us about JD Vance's world stage hypocrisy when it comes to freedom of speech. He was caught lecturing the rest of Europe when here at home, things are not looking so good on the First Amendment front. We're also going to be talking about what the hell DOGE exactly does and who's in charge. What is Elon Musk's job title? Who's making decisions at DOGE? Is there anyone inside, or is it just sort of like 5 tweens in a trench coat that make up one person with a security clearance? We don't know, but we're going to find out. We're also going to talk a little bit about Social Security, give you a Reek of the week, and then, as always, a moment of hope.
A moment of hope, some good news. But first, folks, this is independent media. We need your support, especially as JD Vance and Elon Musk are literally attacking Mehdi Hasan. Please like this. Please subscribe to Zateo. You will ring the bell. Once you get the bell rung, you'll know when we're going live. Please become a super donor, a super share. That's that heart sign with the dollar bill. If you click on it, you can give us a tip. It all goes a long way. It's all grassroots. And always be notified when we're live.
Yes, that's what happens when you ring the bell. Again, Tuesdays and Thursdays. 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, but just let's get into it. The acting head of the Social Security has resigned. Resigned in protest, resigned in part defending our privacy and the people who receive Social Security. So her name was Michelle King. She was the acting commissioner for Social Security. She worked for more than 3 decades at the agency. A Trump administration official told the BBC's U.S. partner CBS that King had been replaced by Leland Dudek, who had previously led the agency's fraud investigation office. That's fun. The president of the advocacy group Social Security Works, Nancy Altman, told CBS that DOGE employees had been trying to gain access to a database containing sensitive Social Security information, and that King had been resistant to allow them to access it. Quote, she was standing in the way, and they moved her out of the way. So, Waj, this is, not the first time we've seen this. People who have been dismissed or been asked to do something illegal, something that is still being litigated, which is all of the access that DOGE is getting to our information and now our tax returns and our IRS information, but also our Social Security information. And Elon Musk claims, though, of course, he continues on this sort of the misinformation, dog and pony show when it comes to what the hell DOGE is doing. He tweeted, bruh. If I wanted to rummage through the random personal shit, I could have done that at PayPal. Hello. Having tens of millions of people marked in Social Security as alive when they're definitely dead is a huge problem, obviously. Some of these people would have been alive before America existed as a country. Think about that for a second. Okay, let's think about that for a second. Okay, done. Because actually, upon simple fact checking, it turns out that yes, DOGE has it all wrong for the Social Security database. Just because someone is listed in the Social Security database does not mean they're currently receiving a check. And some of these young, DOGE closet Nazi incels who've been working
not too closet, Francesca.
Not too. Some are openly saying we should normalize, I don't know, anti-Indian hate. That was a fun one.
Francesca, the guy Marco Elise, the 25-year-old, the elder of the group, just got reinstated today.
Oh, welcome back, Marco. See, it's kind of like it was a barrier to entry, like how many sort of hateful things you've tweeted. Another guy has retweeted a bunch of Nick Fuentes. So, tomato, everyone's doing everyone's throwing their heart out. You know what I'm saying? So upon obviously some fact checking, Will Stancil tweeted, Elon Musk is an idiot on an almost inconceivable scale.
Inconceivable. Sorry to do that.
He had his high school toadies pull a random list from a database that he doesn't understand. And on that basis alone, decided that 60 million Social Security enrollees out of 72 million in total are fraudulent. So 83% are fraudulent, according to him. And this is one of those things where, like, it's funny, Watch, but aren't you a little bit like, no, I hope he realizes he's wrong, because our parents are on Social Security. A lot of people are
That
on.
means like 83% of grandmas and grandpas are like secretly scamming the government, which would be kind of amazing, like a plot of like an Earth 3 movie. They're like, it's all the seniors and elders are getting together, like, let's scam Social Security. And they find out it's 83% of them.
I mean,
But
at
no,
that point, if they've been pulling the wool over our eyes, it's like, let them keep the money, at that age.
respect.
But I mean, obviously, senior citizens, notable hackers, notoriously skilled when it comes to tech and software. So
Just look
obviously,
at Jerry Connolly. I mean,
I mean, yeah, that guy knows his way around a Zoom meeting. Now, like, and the other thing, Watch, is that we know also that some of the DOGE employees misunderstood, like, there was a default date for like when the person was receiving Social Security, and it defaulted to like the 1800s. That's where Elon Musk is pulling that sort of like before the country was founded, even though it was founded by then. And it's because they didn't understand the very system that they are trying to infiltrate and destroy. So, we always say maybe it's easier to break things than it is to, like, put them back together. And that is true. But also, it seems like these guys don't even understand what it is they are breaking.
it's the incompetence. And I'm glad you're mentioning that. In addition to the recklessness, in addition to the racism, in addition to the cruelty, in addition to who are these people and why do they have access to my Social Security number? They are stupid. They don't even understand the data that they're looking at, which they're probably downloading on their computer as we're speaking.
No, and we also know, by the way, that the website that DOGE set up that was like, hey, report your fraud, you can hack that very easily, apparently. It's like Wikipedia, basically. Anybody can do it, which is terrifying. But of course, our actual President Donald Trump, quickly was able to just nip that misinformation in the bud and, yes, put a line in the sand between himself and Elon. I'm just kidding. He absolutely doubled down on the lies.
We have a very corrupt country, and it's a sad thing to say, but we're figuring it out. Now, the good thing about Social Security and what I read is if you take all of those numbers off, because they're obviously fraudulent or incompetent, but if you take all of those millions of people off Social Security, all of a sudden we have a very powerful Social Security with people that are 80 and 70 and 90, but not 200 years old.
What does that mean? I tried, Francesca. I'm not as smart as you.
I followed him.
I tried.
We have a very, very good Social Security with people. So again, he's buying into the idea that people who are dead are still on Social Security. 83% of the people receiving it. And again, this is one of those things where you're like, I want to laugh at it, but I'm also terrified for people who receive Social Security in this country, which again was sort of this, the untouchable, institution in our society that ever since it was hard fought and won during, the New Deal era, it has not been rolled back. And in Republicans, it's been a toxic issue to try and roll back. So the idea that they are now going after it under the guise of fraud and abuse and waste, pretty much in the dumbest way possible, it's like, oh, maybe this is how they, roll back Social Security. They couldn't do it politically. They're just going to be so dumb about it. Maybe you can dumb your way into destroying Social Security.
Or maybe you just punch yourself in the face. Let's see. But thankfully, Elon Musk, though, is in charge. Elon Musk is the one from the Oval Office who brings his child and addresses the press. And his child, of course, as you know, picks his nose and wipes it on the desk.
Bless
and
that
looks
child.
at Donald Trump and says, shh, your mouth. But wait a second, Francesca, a plot twist. Is Elon Musk actually running DOGE? Well, there was a lawsuit, this DOGE lawsuit, in which a White House official, Fisher, revealed that Musk is actually, Francesca, a White House senior advisor to the president with, quote, no greater authority than other senior White House advisors. That means, he continued, that, quote, Musk has no actual or formal authority to make government decisions himself. Musk can, quote, only advise the president and communicate the president's directives. Question then, what about DOGE, or as Francesca says, Doggy, which Trump established in the executive branch as the U.S. DOGE service? Well, a Fisher said Musk is not the head of U.S. DOGE service or even an employee of it. As for who runs it, the administration hasn't said. So that's a good question. Who actually runs DOGE? Surely senior White House advisor Stephen Miller would have the answer. He was asked by Brianna Keilar earlier today on CNN. This is what Budget Goebbels said.
So who is in charge of DOGE?
The President of the United States.
He's the administrator of DOGE?
No, the DOGE is what was formerly U.S. Digital Services. It's an agency of the federal government that reports into the Executive Office of the President, which reports to the President of the United States.
Okay.
The way that Article 2 works is the President wins an election, and then he appoints staff, including myself, including Mike Waltz, including Susie Wiles, including Elon Musk, and those staff report to him.
Okay, well aware. So Elon Musk a week ago answered a question about transparency at DOGE. This is how he spoke about DOGE.
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the DOGE handle on X and to the DOGE website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent.
So who runs DOGE? Someone tell me who runs DOGE. Stephen Miller didn't give me an answer. You know who would know Elon Musk's role? Daddy Trump, the king.
Let's ask him.
This was earlier today, just a few hours ago, folks.
In a court filing, the White House said that Elon Musk is not a DOGE employee and has no authority to make decisions. Can you clarify for us today
Well, Elon
what his
Musk,
exact role is there?
Yeah. Elon is, to me, a patriot. So, you could call him an employee, you could call him a consultant, you could call him whatever you want.
What do you call him, Francesca?
I mean, just kind of like the weirdo who keeps offering his sperm at every dinner party, the fragile billionaire who had a public midlife crisis and bought a company valued at $44 billion for no reason. I mean, what do you call him?
Apartheid Clyde, dude who got rejected by girls and all the money in the world can't make him cool. A person who runs the dumbest car I've ever seen in my life.
Yep.
Person who
does great in snow.
Does great in snow. Can't. But for what Francesca's saying is, there's an amazing clip right now of the Cybertruck, the armored vehicle that apparently is going to get $400 million from your taxpayer dollars, trying its hardest to get out of 2 inches of snow. Who do you think won, the Cybertruck or snow? Snow.
Ooh, snow. We could have put a poll out, but I think we all know the answer. Okay, so that is Trump saying that he's being asked, look, there is this court filing. There's basically an affidavit. Fox News was talking about this. It says Elon Musk is not the head of DOGE. Elon Musk is, like not an employee of DOGE. And then you have Stephen Miller, who's like, okay, it is Trump who's the head of DOGE. And Elon Musk is an advisor. Like, nobody actually knows or is being clear on what he does. And it seems like internally, I don't know, this feels like a Michael Wolff book waiting to happen of like, who was at the head of DOGE, that we'll find out, in 6 months to 2 years when he wants to, sell another book at us.
Dude,
but like,
they're going to blame Vivek. You know it. Like, Vivek set up as the patsy this entire time.
Blame the brown guy. It totally, because but really there is disagreement of what Elon Musk's role is, and there you have it with Trump just kind of like, like freeballing, just kind of like, he's a patriot. He doesn't know either.
And that's what's so frightening, especially as we set up the show as the head of SS, the director who's been there for 3 decades is resigning. We just found out that a director at the the US FDA who oversees food safety, he's stepping down, right? A person at the FAA, according to the Rolling Stones today, said, hey, we have 5 people doing the jobs of 14 people. Please, somebody, this is not good. He has access, like Francesca said, to our financial information, the Treasury Department, Social Security numbers, and now Elon Musk, who has no official role because he went from special government employee to special advisor to Patriot.
But don't you know how elections work? The president wins an election. Okay.
He's now going into FAA where they're firing everyone. But guess what? He's going to make America safe again because he has SpaceX. Remember that rocket that blew up a month ago? So there's this guy who's unelected, a South African billionaire, the richest man on earth, who bought the presidency for $290 million. And nobody, not even the president, can explain or define his job. Do you feel safer, Francesca?
Super safe. I mean, sometimes when you're rich, like laws don't apply to you. And I feel really good knowing that. I also just want to name, like, it's been what, 5 days since we had a show, and DOGE is already doing far more damage, and even they realize it. So, for example, they tried to fire people who were in charge of our nuclear arsenal to make sure that it was safely guarded and also was being updated. They fired those people, and then they were like, "Oh, ooh, nuclear warhead, dang, that seems kind of important." And they rehired them. Just today, they're now trying to rehire people who were overseeing the bird flu response, given that bird flu is part of the reason that eggs and the price of eggs is going up. So again, this has got Musk's dumbass hands all over it. But we have to turn now to
another
Europe.
dumbass?
There is a world beyond the United States, Waj, and that world is Europe, I guess. We're going to talk about JD Vance. JD Vance was in Germany and managed to piss off all of our European allies to the point where they're now holding meetings without the United States. So cool, burning bridges with our allies. He also, though, made time out of his busy schedule to meet with the far-right German AfD party.
Lovely.
So in case there was any question, about the whole, Nazi thing and whatnot. But it was his appearance at the Munich Security Conference that really had everyone's eyebrows raised, especially when it came to freedom of speech. Now, Vance made a bunch of inflammatory and also honestly unfounded statements during his speech that have been fact-checked. But one of the things that, drew attention from over here was his thoughts about democracy. And I just found this incredibly fitting, especially given what we know about how Trump won, in part how he won the 2016 election. So here he is.
We're at the point, of course, that the situation has gotten so bad that this December, Romania straight up canceled the results of a presidential election based on the flimsy suspicions of an intelligence agency and enormous pressure from its continental neighbors. Now, as I understand it, the argument was that Russian disinformation had infected the Romanian elections. But I'd ask my European friends to have some perspective. You can believe it's wrong for Russia to buy social media advertisements to influence your elections. We certainly do. You can condemn it on the world stage even. But if your democracy can be destroyed with a few $100,000 of digital advertising from a foreign country, then it wasn't very strong to begin with.
Tough crowd.
That was that one pity clap. That probably was Usher in the back.
Usher and his kids. But like, seriously, this is not the first time that JD Vance has not had a warm reception. I just want to break down what he's actually saying. I mean, he is first casting doubt on Romanian intelligence that said Russia had influenced their election to the point where, hey, to honor the voters, we need to do this thing over again. If only the so-called greatest democracy on earth took foreign election interference as seriously and redid our elections, say in 2016 or 2024, or the fact that we're now gutting the foreign election election interference agency that was created after Trump's victory. Now Trump's gutting that entirely. So game on Russia, game on anyone else, China, who wants to buy our elections over here. I just want to name, Waj, that JD Vance doesn't believe in democracy himself. This is a guy who worships far-right ideologues like Curtis Yarvin, who don't believe in democratic civil rights for the majority of people. They believe in minoritarian rule. They believe in rule by the rich. They believe in oligarchy. They want to make the United States look like a corporation. And so it's funny to have him out here being like playing fast and loose with what democracy means when this guy doesn't even believe in it.
And he's mocking our allies, Romania, which, by the way, has like a fraction of the GDP of America. So Russia only had to spend about $400,000, whereas Musk, I think, bought the presidency for $290 million. But Romania, unlike us, actually was more robust in fighting back. Like you said, it wasn't flimsy evidence. There were like 5 government reports, right? They sent all this money to Russia's preferred candidate. And Romanians are like, yeah, we're going to learn about from disinformation and conspiracy theories and foreign interference. Yeah, we don't want what's happening in America to happen here. Exactly. And he has this really harsh words for Romania and our European allies. Somehow didn't have harsh words for Putin or Viktor Orban, the leader, the authoritarian leader, we should say, of Hungary, and somehow went and had a really chummy meeting with one of the leaders of AfD, not just the far-right party, an extremist party that is so far-right that German courts have allowed surveillance of their own leaders as potential security threats, and also their leaders keep making, Francesca, again and again, pro-Nazi sentiment. It just keeps happening, Francesca.
I mean, it's how many times they have to tell us who they are. This is exactly who they are and what they're doing and what they believe in. And I think that this security conference was really a moment, a big break and a big wake-up call to Europe that they don't have a partner. In fact, that is what some of the leaders have been saying. We don't know if we have a partner in this quest for democratic order and democratic norms. The German defense minister said this. He said, democracy was called into question by the U.S. vice president for the whole of Europe. He speaks of the annihilation of democracy. And if I have understood him correctly, he is comparing conditions in parts of Europe with those in authoritarian regimes. And that's not acceptable. In other words, drawing these parallels between just sort of, allied countries that are enforcing their rules of law with, massive crackdowns that are happening in authoritarian regimes, wherever they may be. So in other words, demonizing these democratic regimes as being authoritarian when they're everything but, effectively giving them the Biden treatment, right? Treating them the way the right treated Biden, as if he was weaponizing the DOJ and going after his political enemies, even though that's exactly now what the Trump administration is doing. And to that end, and to what Trump and his allies are doing, let's check in on how American democracy and free speech is going in this country. The Fifth Estate, the importance of a free and fair media. Well, Elon Musk has tweeted just today, I believe it was today, that 60 Minutes yesterday he tweeted 60 Minutes are the biggest liars in the world. Does he think that 60 Minutes is a grouping of minutes that are together 60? That they...
I like minute 6, but not the 0 after. I prefer
I'm
6.
a big fan of minute 44. Okay, so he tweeted, 60 Minutes are the biggest liars in the world. They engaged in deliberate deception to interfere with the last election. And then, as if that weren't enough, they deserve a long prison sentence.
Wow. That was the big one. And all because they did a really stinging report interviewing both Republicans and Democrats talking about Musk and DOGE's, which apparently he doesn't run, attack on USAID and also their sheer incompetence and the damage that they're doing. He didn't like the report, so they deserve, Francesca, a long prison sentence. And
because the election didn't go the way they wanted, right? What?
30 minutes before that, he did a tweet talking about free speech.
Just amazing. By the way, the parent company of CBS that owns 60 Minutes is Paramount, and they've been mulling a settlement, once again, another one of these settlements with Donald Trump in the $10 billion lawsuit that he brought against them, accusing 60 Minutes of editing that interview with Kamala Harris. So again, this is why we need Zateo. This is why we really appreciate your support. And we're going to have Mehdi in a moment. But there is more to talk about when it comes to free speech.
There is more. And the reason why this is so telling is as JD Vance went to Europe and admonished our European allies and accused them of backtracking on the core values and principles of democracy and free speech, this was literally happening in the United States. You had Elon Musk asking for prison sentences for 60 minutes. You got Donald Trump punishing the Associated Press. Why did they punish the Associated Press? Because the Associated Press said, hey, we have international standards and we can't call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. So Trump punished them. JD Vance was fine with that. And then the borders are Tom Homan, that defender of free speech. This is what he did. He went after AOC. He called her really dumb because she was exercising her First Amendment rights to tell immigrants about their rights. She was doing Know Your Rights seminars. Well, Homan doesn't like that. This is what Homan said.
Look, she's the dumbest congresswoman ever elected to Congress, and she proves that every day. And look, bottom line is, I can't believe any member of Congress, Republican, Democrat, Independent, would want to educate criminal illegal aliens who are in the country illegally, been convicted of a violent crime, and have been ordered removed by an immigration judge after due process at great taxpayer expense. You got a congressman or congresswoman that does not want ICE to do the job that Congress has mandated them to do and funds them to do.
Very articulate.
And you need to give me your lunch money, okay? Because that's what we agreed upon. Like, I swear to God, this guy, like, he needs to be like, he's just like why is he a character from The Sandlot? Like, what is
Don't
going
disrespect
on?
The Sandlot. Don't disrespect
I love The Sandlot. I'm just saying he's a character from The Sandlot.
Now, that alone would be like, all right, bro, just sit down. Don't sound that smart. But the punishment, what is the punishment against AOC for exercising her rights and doing
There has to be one.
This is the punishment. This is what he said yesterday as JD Vance was admonishing Europe about free speech.
No, I think I've asked DOJ, where's that line of impediment, of interference? Now, if someone stands in your way, prevents you from arresting somebody, put your hands on it, that's impediment. But what line is telling people to hide from ICE, not open the door? Where do you cross that line on impediment? So I've simply asked the Department of Justice, give us that line.
You have talked to them about this. That's what you're saying?
Absolutely.
So if you've been following, Tom Homan, the border czar, who's perfectly fine deporting U.S. kids who are citizens with their undocumented parents, wants the DOJ to go after Congresswoman AOC for exercising her First Amendment rights. But MAGA wants you to know that they care about First Amendment and free speech, and they'll mark our allies, damn it, and say that you're backsliding. But thankfully, there was a response from AOC. She called out the hypocrisy. She actually called out JD Vance. You lied to the world in Munich. If this administration believed in free speech as you claimed, its leaders wouldn't be threatening members of Congress with criminal investigations for educating the public about their constitutional rights. Look in the mirror. Explain to people their rights is not illegal. They're plainly going after your rights and freedom of speech. And I want Francesca to cook for a second. So let me do this one. She's going to cook in this next segment. She's really passionate about it. But, I kept some receipts. Thanks to Mel for making this into a graphic. I keep receipts, folks. MAGA and Trump love free speech and the First Amendment so much that Trump cited Stalin and called the media and press the enemy of the people. He loves our freedom so much that he actually quoted Hitler right before the election and said that his political rivals are, quote, the enemy from within, on whom he would unleash the military and National Guard. Oh, Kash Patel, speaking of affirmative action hires who aren't qualified, the next FBI director has an enemies list. On that enemies list are, wait for it, media critics. Tulsi Gabbard also has an enemies list. Oh, she's just the director of national intelligence. MAGA attacks our free and fair elections. Hello, January 6th. And Trump still promotes the lie about him losing the 2020 election, which he says he won. Tell me more about free speech.
I mean, yeah, I'm just going to leave that there. But I just want to say, like, right now, there are people there are people who are being deported and being held in countries and deported to countries that they were never from. I'm not talking just nationality or ethnicity wise. Like there are groupings of Asians that are being held in a hotel in Panama. Like, literally, this is what is happening. There was a Venezuelan mother and daughter sent to Mexico. So, yes, these are constitutional rights. You don't have to open the door without a signed warrant. And ICE 9 times out of 10 does not have that signed warrant for you. In fact, they're pissed. Holman's pissed because he wants, and Trump wants these numbers up. They want to be deporting 1,200 people a day, and they're not getting that. So everyone should be doing these trainings and helping spread the word on them. Now, let me just briefly, the Munich summit was very revelatory for many things. JD Vance is a massive hypocrite, but also sometimes in this duopoly, Democrats like to participate in the suppression of the freedom of speech, real freedom of speech. And we got a pretty bold admission from both Senator Mark Warner, who's a Democrat, as well as former Congressman Mike Gallagher, who is a Palantir executive, sort of a creepy Peter Thiel surveillance defense company. And they were kind of palling around, and they basically openly admitted that the reason that Congress was finally able to get the TikTok ban moving was specifically because of not October 7th, but people online understanding the occupation, understanding Palestinian human rights, and learning about this for the first time vis-a-vis that app. Take a look.
Mike, how did that legislation pass so quickly? If this is correct and there's not a lot of people that understand, somebody understood something.
I want to see if you're going to tell the real story.
One, we stole the senator's work, and he did a lot of the, sincerely, a lot of the yeoman's work in drafting an initial bill. We were able to sort of learn from that experience. We refined the approach. We worked with him. We worked with the executive branch. So we had a bipartisan consensus. We had the executive branch, but the bill was still dead until October 7th. And people started to see a bunch of anti-Semitic content on the platform, and our bill had legs again.
There you have it. Our bill had legs again. Thank you, Senator Warner. Thank you, Democrat, for giving us the, volley or whatever, and we had just to spike the ball and revoke one of the main platforms that people spread information about Palestine on. So again, it is a bipartisan thing to actually go after real freedom of speech in this country. But back to JD Vance, because Zeteo founder Mehdi Hasan had a little spat with the vice president on his lecturing of Europe on this issue of freedom of speech. So Mehdi tweeted at JD, "Hey, I know you're busy lecturing the Europeans on free speech, but have you seen this?" Specifically referencing how AP reporters have been blocked from White House press conferences and whatnot because their refusal to call the Gulf of Mexico something it is not. And JD said, "Yes, dummy. I think there's a difference between not giving a reporter a seat in the White House press briefing room and jailing people for dissenting views. The latter is a threat to freedom of speech. The former is not. Hope that helps, except for Elon Musk just called for the jailing of 60 Minutes executives." Anyway, here to defend his honor and his tweet is Mehdi Hasan. Mehdi, thank you.
My honor. Wow, yeah.
Defend your honor.
Defend his own honor. I'm supposed to defend your honor.
You did a great job with that intro, guys. Loving watching the show, as everyone in the comments says. You guys are great together. Let me just say this about JD Vance. My first response to that tweet, I was actually out tubing in the snow with my kids, and I came back and looked at Twitter, and I saw the vice president of the United States take that time on a Monday from governing to call me a dummy and then do a ridiculous tweet, which what's so funny, guys, and I know you guys are as terminally online as I am, the MAGA folks loved it. They were like, "Look at JD Vance destroyed Mehdi Hasan." He destroyed me by just straight up lying and saying, "We're just banning the AP. We're not trying to imprison anyone." As you pointed out, the same day, Elon Musk, Vance's boss, let's not forget, called for the imprisonment of 60 Minutes journalists. What for? The high crime of editing an interview with Kamala Harris that they don't like, that the Republican Party doesn't like. That's what they're obsessed with. They think it was election interference because 60 Minutes edited an interview with Harris. They should be locked up for it. It's something out of North Korea, right? You lock up journalists, you don't know how they edited a package or an interview. And of course, the AP story, by the way, is not some small story. I see some people even on the former lefties like Matt Taibbi jumping online to be like, "Oh, well, getting your seat revoked at the briefing room doesn't mean it's an attack on the First Amendment." That's true. Nobody has a right to a seat in the briefing room. But if you're already in the briefing room and you get ejected because of something you said by the government, and the government didn't like what you said, that is a First Amendment violation. Right? It's very clear. Content policing. So on multiple levels, and Waj had the list earlier, there's so much. If Waj had done the full list, We would be here till midnight, 1 a.m. I mean, you can go through all this. Just last week, Trump called for Eugene Robinson, columnist of the Washington Post, to be fired because he didn't like his column. Rick Grinnell, a Trump administration official, called for a Voice of America correspondent to be fired. Musk has called for multiple people to be fired, including a Wall Street journalist. And then you talk about imprisonment. It's not just Musk. Trump has repeatedly called for journalists to be jailed in this country. Last year, he said the Politico guys who broke the Dobbs story, remember they got the draft
Yes.
Samuel Alito's, maybe not Samuel Alito's, verdict in the abortion case, they should be imprisoned, apparently, for reporting on a leak from the Supreme Court. The previous year, he said at a rally, journalists should be locked up and raped. He suggested that prison rape would get them talking. People laughed in the MAGA crowd. So when I hear Trump and Musk say this stuff, and then their little lackey, JD Vance, go to Munich and say, hey, Europe, you need to believe in free speech like us. I mean, hypocrisy doesn't do it justice. There's not a word in the English language that can sum up the sheer bad faithness of these people lecturing other people about free speech while at the same time. And by the way, notice that Vance did not respond to the Musk comments. I had tweeted about the Musk comments. He ignored that one and went for the easier AP one to go, well, it's not the same as denying a journalist a spot in a room as imprisoning them. You have threatened to imprison them. This is the world we are now in, Francesca.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I wanted to ask you about, I said earlier that, JD Vance is someone who admires people like Curtis Yarvin and other far-right ideologues that don't actually believe in democracy. And so, this coming out almost at the Munich security conference as, not being a partner, not just, I think this moves far beyond Ukraine, but just not being a partner in the concept of liberal democracy anymore. What do you make of that? And maybe how it makes Europe, how they might and should react?
So the old school conservatives, the Reaganites, used to pretend to believe in freedom while obviously supporting horrific dictators around the world. But at least they pretended to believe in freedom. Now you can argue that's good or bad. It's better to have the honest version. This Republican Party very clearly doesn't care about freedom, right? They cozy up to the worst leaders in the world proudly. And you see that with Trump going on about, I don't know if you saw Trump's comments today where he talked about Zelensky only has a 4% approval rating. Not true. And there should be new elections in Ukraine. Now, whether or not there should be new elections in Ukraine is a legitimate debate. But I didn't hear him calling for new elections in Russia, where there hasn't been a free and fair election for decades, right? I didn't hear JD Vance, as Waj pointed out earlier in the show, go after Viktor Orban's crackdown on free speech on campuses in Hungary or in the media, which is very unfree in Hungary right now. No. He went after the UK, and he went after Scotland, he went after Germany, all allies of the United States. So you just look at who are their friends and who are their enemies. Look, man is judged by the company he keeps, as the old saying goes. And these people love to keep illiberal, autocratic, tyrannical companies. I mean, I'm still not over the fact. I'm one of these people who just gets ulcers thinking about the fact that we move on from stuff. Donald Trump has repeatedly praised the world's worst dictator, right? Mm-hmm. Kim Jong-un is his hero. He said that I wish my people saluted me like they salute Kim Jong-un. We wrote love letters to each other. He's a great friend. How's he doing? That would disqualify you from a role on a local school board. If you ran for your local school board and said, I love Kim Jong-un, you would not get voted onto the school board. For a second time, despite expressing love for the most autocratic, anti-democracy, dictatorial, freakish world leader there is. And the Republican Party doesn't care.
Well, we keep receipts here. And I remember when that tweet went out, we were on a WhatsApp group, and some friends who are not part of the media industry and masochists like us were the ones who alerted us and said, man, this is scary. And then Elon Musk retweeted it. And the reason why it was scary is we keep receipts, and we know that Donald Trump has promoted violence, not just against journalists and critics, but he has repeatedly encouraged violence against protesters and openly told MAGA, hey, beat him up. I'll pay your legal fees. There was also the January 6th violent insurrection. He also mocked and ridiculed the attack on Paul Pelosi. And we know that journalists themselves have felt massive repercussions, right? There's a person in jail right now, Cesar Sayoc, from the first administration. I know you followed it, Mehdi. He literally followed all of Trump's enemies and then tried to send functional pipe bombs to them. And then he said, oops, I was radicalized by right-wing media. So if we may, just personally, when you see that the vice president, JD Vance, who apparently has a lot of free time because Elon Musk is doing his job, decides to go after you, and then that gets retweeted by Elon Musk, how does that make you feel? Like, man, I got to step back. I should protect myself. did you get calls from Ami and Abu from the UK, right? Like because that, I don't think people realize it's not a game.
Yeah.
When you have these freaks, literally some of them who are violent insurrectionists, come after you as a result of JD Vance and Musk putting the target on you.
So technically, Elon Musk is doing Donald Trump's job. So Trump is doing Vance's job, just to correct you there, Waj.
Yeah, I think that's right. Good correction.
You're right. Look, it is a serious issue, and people are far too blasé about this stuff. I'm glad, again, that you keep receipts, that we at Zeteo keep receipts. In the first term, Cesar Sayok was the pipe bomber, sent those to George Soros and to anchors and politicians. If you remember, a guy was sentenced to prison after threatening CNN in multiple calls, echoing Trumpian rhetoric when Trump was putting out videos of CNN being squashed by a train and an ant on his foot. There was a lot of incitement against the media. And in this recent election campaign, he joked about a bullet being fired through the press and him saying, I don't mind if a shooter takes a shot at me and they shoot through journalists. If you remember that just a few months ago, he's talked about locking up journalists. He's put out AI images of public figures behind bars. And look, this is testified to by law enforcement, by multiple studies. When Trump or Musk target a individual, whether they're a public figure or a private figure on social media, that person tends to get a lot of threats, get stuck in the crosshairs, as you put it.
There's a name for it, stochastic terrorism.
It is inspiring violence without saying, go kill this person, but it is creating an atmosphere in which people want to go and kill X person.
Yes.
I think the most infamous, notorious, shameful example of that was Shamos and Ruby Freeman, the two Georgia election workers. And you remember her tear-filled testimony at the January 6th committee, where she talked about not being able to go into a grocery store without wearing a wig because she was so worried about people coming out to get her, having to move house multiple times. There are so many people over the last few years who had to move house because they're getting attacked.
Well, now she's up in Rudy Giuliani's penthouse, boo, party after like completely, scrubbing it down with Clorox.
She does even more. She does even better with getting Giuliani's money. But Waj, you're right. It is serious. And a lot of journalists I know will reach out to me privately and say, we agree with you. We're glad you said what we said. But they won't say it publicly because they're worried. Yeah. I think I'm right in saying Senator, was it Gillibrand recently said that she thought Republican members of Congress were being threatened and were voting with Trump because they worry about their own lives. I think it was Don Bacon, the former Republican congressman, who said his wife slept with a gun by their bed after he went against Trump on some absurd minor issue. Mitt Romney was paying $5,000 a day to protect his family after he voted to convict Trump in the first impeachment trial. So there's no doubt that he incites violence against people. That's part of the authoritarianism, right? It's preemptively chilling free speech by making people worried about stepping out of line and standing up for themselves, and using social media, of course, as that, bully pulpit, that weapon to shut people up. Clearly, Twitter is a deeply toxic place. I've been on Twitter for 15 years. And for the last few weeks, like a lot of people, I've been thinking, how long can we stay on this platform?
Oh, if you leave, I leave. Where we go one, we go all, Mehdi.
People we all respect have already gone. And, and I understand the arguments about, do we stay on the platform because we don't want to give it over to fascists? We were there first. We shouldn't cede space to awful people. It's still a hugely influential platform. But right now, the last 24 hours for me has been insane. I've been called a terrorist. I've got threats. I've got crazy people with blue checks amplifying lies about me, partly thanks to the vice president, partly thanks to other right-wing MAGA influencers and right-wing journalists. So, we have to, unfortunately, those of us in public eye have to take steps to look after our families, make sure we're secure, make sure our devices are secure, make sure our home addresses are.
So we're going to get like the Zeteo Costa Rica compound, because I'd be super down if we could all just go.
I like the Costa Rica compound idea.
Costa Rica Zeteo compound. We do real good journalism and reporting.
That requires some real super donors in the chat.
Okay. Very good. No, because when you initially started this segment, you were like saying it reminds you of North Korea, or the idea that you would edit a package, a news package, to the liking of the regime. Let's call it what it is. I mean, Fox News was already doing that in the run-up to this election when they were trying to make Trump look like his brain wasn't leaking out of his skull. But it reminds me of all the things that, for they talk about Venezuela. Venezuela, notoriously very difficult to report on as a foreign journalist. And everything you do report on has to be sort of okayed by, at this point, the Maduro regime. But it's like that same clampdown. Like, we will see a future where, I don't know, foreign journalists, if it's the BBC or wherever, want to do a package about how the Trump administration is going. In order to get an interview with someone, they're going to have final eyes on that cut.
Well, in India, which is another place that the autocratic playbook is being used and that Trump is clearly borrowing from his friend Mr. Modi, who was in town last week. In India, they've gone after domestic media and foreign media. A lot of foreign journalists who've been there for years have had visas revoked. The BBC had its offices raided by the Indian tax police just days after it ran a critical documentary about Modi. So that is the playbook. In Hungary, we know what they've done with the media. In Turkey, what Erdogan has done with the media. Of course, Putin and Russia, we know all about. And I think that is a problem whereby journalists are either being threatened by lawsuits or threatened by violence or threatened with firings to fall into line. You have the FCC chair, Brendan Carr, the new Federal Communications Commission, who is going around policing content, which is totally outside of the purview of the FCC. He's gone, I think there was a radio station or TV station in Northern California, which he's decided to investigate because he didn't like their coverage of ICE raids. Again, this is stuff straight out of dictatorships, not democracies. And we all have to really be cognizant of this. And the problem is the American media has never been very good at solidarity, Francesca. And if journalists could stick together, if media organizations could stick together, we might have a better chance of surviving. But unfortunately, we don't do that in this country.
Mehdi, let me keep you for 2 extra minutes because we talked about American media, and there's this clip here where Jesse Waters of Fox pretty much gives the entire playbook. He almost gets there. He's right, but at the end, he can't help but do projection. But listen to this, and I want your response.
Dana, we are waging a 21st century information warfare campaign against the left, and they are using tactics from the 1990s. They are holding tiny press conferences, tiny little rallies. They're screaming into the ether on MSNBC. This is what you call top-down command and control. You get your talking points from a newspaper and you put it on the broadcast network and then it disappears. What you're seeing on the right is asymmetrical. It's like grassroots guerrilla warfare. Someone says something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it, and by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it. It's free money. And we're actually talking about expressing information. They are suppressing information.
I appreciate him being honest.
Did he just admit
in a museum because he summed up, leftist media criticism of the right-wing media? I mean, I've been saying stuff like that, as have you, Francesca, for the last decade. And there, Jesse Waters goes on primetime and goes like, yeah, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it. And the best part is Fox broadcasts it. He basically says live on air that Fox does. We all know Fox does right-wing propaganda. And he says it, right? We don't need to. Yes. When they went to court and they said, well, Tucker Carlson's just pretending. He doesn't actually believe what he's saying. Remember that court case where they tried to defend Tucker by saying, well, he's on a news show. He doesn't actually believe what he says. And this is the equivalent of Waters going, and he's right, by the way. He's right about the left and liberals not understanding the information environment and the asymmetric warfare that's going on. He's 100% right about the Democrats and liberals still hiding behind old linear models, one-way traffic. You and I, Francesca, talked, I think, on your show a while back about how progressive media was not supported by the left, by Democratic Party, by the billionaires, etc. The right-wingers invested in podcasts, invested in Daily Wire, invested in all that stuff, all that online infrastructure. Meanwhile, it's impossible to get mainstream Democratic politicians to come on kind of alternative media, independent media. They're still busy going on Meet the Press only or Face the Nation, which no one watches. Good old Hasan, who just clipped that clip. And I think, look, we really need to think long and hard about how are people going to fight back in asymmetric warfare. It's not just about broadcasting, just what we were talking about, free speech. Why doesn't the Democratic Party, why doesn't the DNC sue Fox and say you edited Donald Trump's interviews?
Absolutely.
That's election interference. The funny thing is, it's true in the case of Fox. They literally they edited him on the Epstein stuff to make him sound like he was open to an Epstein disclosure record, which he wasn't. Why don't they sue him? Do exactly what Trump did to CBS. You have to fight fire with fire. Why don't Mark Cuban and Alexander Soros and all the liberal billionaires, centrist, why don't they go around suing people in the way that Musk and Trump are? If you're going to have this, we need a level playing field. It is asymmetric warfare. Right is winning.
It sounds like Waters just like came and watched our interview with Taylor Lorenz where she was like, the left is super behind. And also, I mean, he just explained how the misinformation, quite frankly, gets laundered through the right-wing, podcast sphere, through the internet, and then on up to Fox News uncritically.
It's like when Donald Trump said, I could shoot someone in Fifth Avenue and not get away with it. It's the only true sentence Jesse Waters has said, like that, Donald. Occasionally they'll say something truthful in the middle of all the lies.
Mehdi, before we let you go, folks want to know your sweatshirt, your very dope hoodie that says the Teo on it. Where can people get one?
Where's our free one also?
Well, Francesca and Waj's free hoodies. To quote Oprah, you get a hoodie and you get a hoodie. We've got merch heading your way. You have to wear it on this show very soon. But yeah, we just launched merchandise. We're very excited. It means we're a real media company. Having Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists and having a podcast that won an award, that doesn't make you a media company. Having merch.
NPR's known this for decades.
We have a tote bag like NPR. We have a hoodie. We have a pullover. We have mugs. It's all at shop.zateo.com. So head over there to get your merch. And if you're a paid subscriber, you should have an email in your inbox with a discount too.
And everybody can read Mehdi's latest for Zateo. JD Vance called me a dummy for pointing out his administration's hypocrisy on free speech. I guess the truth hurts at Zateo.com. Thank you so much, Mehdi.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. And oh boy, God, we're so fucked. But not as much as some of the people who are continually serving in this administration. And every week, Waj, we talk about someone who's bent the knee just a degree too far, kissed the ring with too much tongue, who's pleasured either Elon Musk or Donald Trump in just an awkward new way, has really bent over backwards to pleasure them. We call it Reek of the Week, based on a Game of Thrones character that debases themselves. And this week, our Reek is, take it away.
Well, before I tell you the Reek of the Week, there are so many Reeks of the Week. How do I choose just one? Well, in order to come up with this week's Reek of the Week, and you know, Francesca, I take it very seriously because I can only choose one like Highlander. There can be only one each week. I said, what's a big problem? Oh, yes, planes are colliding, falling from the sky. There are 8 in the first month of Trump's second first 100 days. U.S. airlines, they're a part of some crash or collision. I'm going to count the one that took off from Minneapolis and landed upside down like the movie from Flight in Toronto, right? And you would think, okay, so maybe these brilliant, genius, best and brightest folks will make our airlines safer. But guess what? Nope. They're firing aviation safety experts. They're gutting the FAA. Jason King, who is among those laid off, said he was worried about how the move would impact aviation safety. He told WUSA 9, an affiliate of BBC, firing people directly involved with air safety is, quote, concerning for public safety in our national airspace. Mr. King, who's worked at the FAA, involved directly addressing safety concerns, said the move threatens public trust and increases likelihood of future accidents. Well, guess what, Francesca?
And he said, wait, I just think it's important, him saying aviation should never be treated as a budget item that can just be completely cut. I mean, this is what we're in the middle of. And so it's nice to reiterate that over and over and over again. You can't just willy-nilly cut the FAA.
And speaking of cuts, and thank you for reminding me, Rolling Stone has a piece right now where a member of the FAA said, there are 5 people right now doing the jobs of 14 people. Do you feel better, America? So as this was happening, we have now a Secretary of Transportation, not Pete Buttigieg, because the president is no longer Biden. It is Donald Trump, and we have a Real World alum. Yes, Sean Duffy of Real World is now the Secretary of Transportation. And as planes are going down, as people are freaked the F out, what does he do? Like the man that he is? Oh, he blames Mayor Pete, failing for 4 years to address the air traffic controller.
This is after the plane landed on its head.
This is after the most deadly collision that we saw just a few weeks ago in DCA, where nearly 70 people were killed. This is after Elon Musk pushed out the head of FAA. This is after Donald Trump disbanded the Aviation Security Advisory Group. This is as they're literally gutting the FAA. This is what Sean Duffy does.
Okay, I'm hearing him out.
As the planes are going down, Sean Duffy decides to attend the Super Bowl and go to Daytona. So for this week, folks, I think I've made the case. Let me know that this week's Week of the Week is former Real World alum, married to another Real World alum, turned Fox host, Sean Duffy. And wait, I have an animation. Oh, thank you.
Mayor Pete failed for 4 years to address air traffic control shortage upgrades. What is this? This is his realm. This is his agency. Here's the truth. The FAA alone has a staggering 45,000 employees. What's 400 fewer? They were all probationary, meaning they had been hired less than a year ago, except apparently also probation could mean that they were due for a raise. And they just fired those people as well. Mayor Pete chose this amazing new department. So he's just passing the buck, of course, because that's what they do.
But no, he's not just passing the buck. As he's passing the buck, he's also enjoying the Super Bowl. I wonder how he flew there. And he is also enjoying Daytona, the races there. And Francesca and I were talking. Let us know if you agree. I think the Trump administration, every single official, if they truly believe American airlines are great, if they truly believe Musk and our Reek of the Week, Sean Duffy, are making America safer, I want them all, like Pete, to fly an economy on U.S. airlines. Take a video. Go live on Insta and TikTok.
You can fly. You don't need to fly economy. You can fly first class, but you better be on that plane. You know what I mean? Like, you better be on that damn plane. Exactly. Yeah, but they won't be. They'll be on their private jets with their like private FAA towers. It's very terrifying.
Mella's telling me that we don't know if Duffy was at the Super Bowl. Trump was there, but Duffy did attend Daytona.
But like, this is truly like, these are our leaders, and they are saying, oh, no, it's not our fault, even though 8 plane crashes happened and incidents happened in 30 days. It's the other guy's fault. Total Reek. I love it. Now.
I was going to set you up. I was going to give you the assist. We had such bad news today. We don't know who's running the country. We don't know what Elon Musk is doing. People are losing their jobs. Planes are dropping. We gave you a lot. Mehdi Hasan, our kind of boss, is being attacked by JD Vance. But surely, Francesca, you can give us good news and tell me something good.
Well, look, I think it's really important as journalists to highlight the resistance, like real resistance, not the hashtag resistance, but people in the streets, people who are pushing back, people who are joining unions, people who, are doing more than what Hakeem Jeffries manages to do every goddamn day. And this weekend, we saw massive protests around the country as part of the 50-51 or 50 protests, 50 states won movement event. And this is an aerial shot of Washington Square Park, and this doesn't even do it justice. There were demos around the country, and so many of you were also there, I know. And there's just some really, really awesome stuff. A smattering of my favorite signs. Thank you so much, Mel, the wonderful Melanie. Shout out to putting this together. This was very much a No Kings on President's Day. That was the other moniker that it had. The Devil Wears MAGA. And my favorite, a cartoon with Drake from the Super Bowl saying, "Say Trump, I heard you like I'm dumb. Save the Department of Ed."
I love that.
So good.
That's my favorite.
So the creativity, the resistance, the memes, they will get us through as we figure out, how to fight all of this at the same time. But the truth is we need, and I always say this, I think the leaders are going to be coming from these movements. I think people who are going to be changing this country are folks who we might not have even met yet. And so I'm excited for new crops of leaders to, let's be honest, replace the Schumers and the Jeffries of this country.
Francesca, we have a fact check from our community. I think while you were on your roll, you might have accidentally said Drake when you meant Kendrick. I automatically autofilled Kendrick in my head.
Okay, sorry. How dare I? No, that was Kendrick. Ken Drake. The fact that they have similar names is upsetting to the old lady brain in me. No, that was Kendrick talking about Drake, but it was Hey Trump. But anyway, that's been the show. Waj, you do a lot more than just this show. Tell people how they can find you, follow your work.
You can find me driving a Honda Odyssey minivan in Virginia and shopping at Costco. But if you're not that lucky, I write at the Left Hook Substack. We have now 40,000 subscribers. Please join. And I also co-host Democracy-ish with my fabulous co-host, Danielle Moody. It's live every Monday and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, I will be back with Francesca here on Thursday night at 8 p.m. But Francesca, you host like 14 shows. Please tell us where people can support you, support your voice, and find you and your work.
Honestly, other than America Unhinged, it's just one. That's the Bituation Room. It is a podcast. It's also on Substack. It's also on youtube.com/FrannyFio. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays. 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow I'm going to break down my appearance on Piers Morgan, all about RFK Jr., including talking to the man who wants to live forever and measures his night erections.
Totally normal thing for people to do. Also, plug your Substack.
Substack is a Bituation podcast, I think. I don't know. God, maybe it is Franny Fio. I'm so terrible on Substack.
I've been telling
Don't
her for
hate
2
me.
weeks. I said, for the love of God, you have a Substack promotion. She goes, yeah, I should. All right, please, someone get on top of it. Can someone please tell us what Francesca's Substack is? Can someone please
I think it's YouTube. I think it's youtube.com, substack.com/FrannyFio, I think is what it is. FRANIFIO.
And before we leave real quick, folks, again, please like this show. Please subscribe. Please ring the bell. You'll be notified each time we go live, which again is going to be 8 p.m. Thursday Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Please donate. Be a super sharer. Click that heart with the $sign. Buy the Zeteo merch, folks. And please support independent media. As always, we will never bend the knee. We will never kiss the ring, and we'll give it to you straight.
That's right. Thanks for joining us. See you Thursday. And until next time, keep your screws tight, America. Bye.